Hey leaders, thanks for coming back for another Fathom Group Focus video. Today we are going to talk about something that we can do week in and week out so that we are getting ready for this awakening. At Back to School Retreat, our theme was awaken, and it's really our theme for this whole year. And we're not just going to talk about it, we're not just going to study what does it mean to awaken, but we're going to practically prepare and equip our students so that they might lead an awakening for our community. And so, what are we going to do big picture, and what are we going to do week in and week out to make this happen? You'll see big picture. We've already kind of started laying the groundwork for this in our sermon series that we've been going through, Matter of Time. We've kind of hit this idea of, hey, time is limited. You don't know how long you have. Your life is a mist. It might vanish at any moment. And really, we don't know when Jesus is coming back. And there are thousands, hundreds, millions, and billions of people who don't know Jesus, and we want them to spend eternity with Christ instead of apart from Christ. So we have to take this life seriously and capture every moment. So that being our foundation going into our next series of John is really where we start to prepare them for this idea of going out and telling others about Jesus. The purpose of our series, Book of Life, which covers the book of John, is we want to study so that we can share. We want to study the scripture, study John, see what it tells us about God, who he is, and his plan for his people, so we can share with others his plan for his people. And so we'll go through that, and during that process, we'll ask our students to pray about who is one person in their life they can really talk about the scripture with. Who will they sit down and actually ask to read some of these chapters of John with and just have a conversation? They're not necessarily trying to convert them or persuade them. Just say, who's someone who I know I could have a good conversation with, who maybe doesn't know Jesus or who isn't currently actively following Jesus, that I can read these chapters of John with and talk about, and maybe the Lord might do something in our life and our relationship about. So that's John. After that, we are kind of finishing up the semester with how to church, and the idea is if we are on this mission and have limited time, and we are going out there and we are serving and talking and sharing, we need to make sure that we are supported, and we are supported by our church community. And if we're going to be supported by our church community, we have to do church well. We have to both give to our church and receive support from our church. And so really we're talking about the message, we're talking about worship, we're talking about the people in our church, and how all of that feeds into supporting us while we're on our mission so we can mission well to our community. So that's big picture in our ministry. But what do we do every Sunday night that's going to keep us focused and get us ready for this awakening mission? What we've already modeled and what we're going to be stepping into is really focusing on sharing the gospel and sharing your testimony. If you were at Back to School Retreat, you saw every worship service a student got up and they had a chance to share their testimony for about 2 minutes, or they got up and shared the gospel for about 2 minutes. And it was so cool to see students who are prepared for that and who are ready to get up there and to talk to their peers about that. And that's our dream for every student in our ministry, that no matter who asks them about the story of God, or no matter who asks them about the work of God in their life, that they are ready to share. So every Sunday night, our hope is that as you get to groups, you would open in prayer, and then a different person every Sunday night would share a 2-minute testimony or a 2-minute gospel, and that would focus our hearts of, this is our mission. And every week we're hearing it, and we're getting more and more comfortable talking about it. We're getting more and more comfortable sharing it with others. And so we've provided for you in your curriculum a guideline for these two, and I just wanted to explain that real quick and model it real quick for you. The first one is testimony, and I've always approached this in answering kind of 3 questions. If I ever asked to tell my testimony, I'd say, answer the question, what was my life like before I met Christ? How did I meet Christ? And how has my life been different since meeting Christ? And so it might look something like this. Before I met Christ, I was a good moral kid and a rule follower. But I didn't recognize my sin at all. I thought I was very good. But when I was in 10th grade, I went on a mission trip and met Christ and experienced him through living every day on mission and community, and I was just changed for forever. And since then, he's really been humbling me and showing me the value of the lives around me, and how amazing and satisfying it is to give my life to Christ, and how much I would want that for those around me. And so I've committed my life to that. So that's a quick testimony. I answered those 3 questions. What's really cool and really important for students to learn is the more specific you are and the more vulnerable you are, the more impactful your testimony is. You don't have to be someone who's been addicted to drugs to have a powerful testimony. You can have someone be someone who is trapped in kind of perfectionism, and your heart breaking because you never could live up to this image that you want to. That relates to a lot of people. So you don't have to come from something bad in order to have a powerful story. Every testimony is a story about someone going from death to life, and that is a miracle in itself, no matter how normal it may seem. The second thing that you guys will share is the gospel, and there are 4 parts of the gospel. First one is creation. Second is fall, redemption, restoration. Creation, fall, redemption, restoration. And so it might sound like this. God created the world, and it was perfect, and he created humanity in his image. But humanity sinned and fell apart from God. There was tension in our relationship. But God would not stand for that because he loved his people so much. So he sent his son, Jesus, to come down and redeem humanity and to restore them in a relationship with him. He wants to restore not just a relationship, but all of creation in his second coming. Those are the 4 parts of creation. You can even make that personal. You can say things like, God created the world and made everything be perfect. But I was made in his image. But we fell, and I've experienced sin in my life. I see the pride in my life. I see the selfishness in my life. And Jesus doesn't want that for me. So he stepped into this world for me, that he might redeem me and bring me out of my sin, so I experience him in his fullest. And one day, he's going to come back and restore me fully so I can live with him forever. And so you kind of see, you can tell it strictly from a story sense, you can tell it from a personal sense. But what's really cool there is if we do this every week, for 2 minutes at the beginning of groups, our students are used to this. It keeps the mission before us. It equips them to talk about it with friends. And hopefully it'll put us in the right motion to be living into this vision that God's given us for this year. So I hope this is super helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, we would love to walk with you through this, to model this for you. I'm so excited about what it means for our students to be engaging this community with this gospel. So thanks for tuning in. I will see you guys Sunday.